Hello, everyone. It's great to see you all again, as always. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Demi Mohammed, and I am the Programs Assistant at the Freer Sackler Galleries, which together make the National Museum of Asian Art. I always mess that up. We thank you for joining us for our art-based meditations, which we do every Friday, along with regular meditations on Mondays and Wednesdays. And today's focus will be on a Buddhist stele. It is this beautiful sculpture that we'll be focusing on with help from Aparna. So I will pass it on to her.
Thank you so much, Demi, for opening up this month's meditation, art-inspired meditation sessions. And namaste, one and all. Thank you so much for being here. We're so delighted to be celebrating the last month of 2021 with all of you through these meditations, which today is inspired by a work of art. So this work, as Demi shared just a few moments ago, is a Buddhist stele. It's a really tall art object. It's almost like sculptural. And let me start by showing you a glimpse of what it is that we'll be meditating to today. And then I'll share a little bit more about our meditation practice overall. I'll give you an overview of that. So if you're ready, let's look at, and just to get a sense of how huge this is, imagine if you were standing in it. It's almost 6 feet tall, about 2 feet wide, and a little more than 1 foot in its depth. And not only does it have all these sculptural details, these carvings on the front side that we're seeing right now, during our meditation, we will go through a series of pictures where we'll also see the back side of this art object. And this would be a great time for all of us to set up our screens if we need to adjust it, or if we need to adjust our sitting position, maybe change the volume, adjust volume settings, doing all these adjustments so that we can get set for our meditation practice. All right, yogis, pause the screen sharing just for now and find a comfortable seated position. As we practice this Monday, our meditation today will focus on witnessing, the quality of observing things without judgments and perhaps analysis. So we'll try to do that. For that, I invite you to your meditation posture, sitting upright, relaxing your shoulders, maybe closing your eyes or lowering the gaze. And just notice how you feel in this position. If it feels like you're rushing towards a stillness, then you don't have to. Take your time to shift slowly but intentionally. You feel that your back could use a little more support from a pillow. You may do that. You may place a pillow behind your back. And then slowly, let's invite ourselves to this meditation, to this moment. To begin with, let's notice where our attention naturally is at this point. It's anywhere else but the moment. You can always acknowledge what is, and then make a choice to come back to the body, to come back to where the body touches the floor or the chair. And noticing if there's a scope to take up more space at these points of contact, by inviting effortlessness at these points of contact. Notice that we always have a choice to shift from all the doing to the being. This release of the weight, bringing effortlessness to the body, is just one way, shifting into the being. Now, in honor of that shift, let's share about 5 deep breaths together. We'll breathe in through the nose. Slowly breathe out through the mouth. Inhaling through the nose. Exhaling through the mouth. Mind goes away somewhere else. Come back to breathing in here. And breathing out now. We'll try 5 more breaths on our own. Breathing in here, breathing out now. When that is complete, we'll go through a short round of body scan. We'll come back to that later in our practice, but for now, just notice the presence of your feet, presence of your lower legs, the shins and the calves, the thighs, the knees, the hips and the seat, the lower back, the abdomen, the upper back and the chest. The shoulders, the upper arms, elbows, forearms. Wrists and the hands. The neck. The head. The entire body. It's attuned to the presence of the entire body. And can we take a moment to feel that presence in the context of the space that surrounds this body? And when we are feeling a little more present than before, and there is this quality of embodiment, we could gently open our eyes, allowing light to reach the eyes instead of reaching out. And bring our attention to this beautifully sculpted Buddhist stele. Again, to remind you of its size, it's about 6 feet, a little more than 6 feet tall. So you can imagine if you were to stand in its presence, what is that level, like what detail you would see at your eye level. And then from there, feel free to let your gaze move from top to bottom, bottom to top, like you're just scanning through this. What do your eyes see? And perhaps this is inspiring us to take a closer look, to zoom in and see the details. And we'll do that by starting at the base of the stele. Noticing this central figure here at the base. And from our prior knowledge, we might be able to identify this figure as a Buddha. And depending on the depth of our knowledge of Buddhism, we might be able to even identify this Buddha by his name. But for now, can we keep all these details aside and just focus on his expression? And his body language, the posture. The gentle smile on his face, conveying the quality of being at ease. Like when one is in the experience of harmony and alignment. What do we notice about the gestures of his hands? The fluid lines depicting his robes. And we're able to see him flanked by two figures. And as we further zoom out, we're able to see some more figures on either side. The one to the viewer's right seems to be holding something like a snake. And then here at the right bottom of the viewer's direction, we see a figure that seems to be squatting. And just below where Buddha is seated, we see there are two animals, suggesting that this could very well be a forest or somewhere out there in the wild. Then to the left, we also can see some inscription, perhaps in Chinese. And then just above this niche for the Buddha, we see many small figures who from their appearance seem to be like many more Buddhas. Then we see another niche where there is a second Buddha seated here in this cross-legged position. Although his seated position seems a little different from the Buddha at the base, who seems to be in a lotus pose. We see both these Buddhas surrounded by many, many Buddhas. And as we move around this stele, as we move towards the left, like going in a clockwise direction, like when one circumambulates a temple or a sacred space, we see many, many more Buddhas here on the side. Again, at the bottom of this side, we find inscriptions. And since we know this is from China, it must be in a Chinese language. And to give you a sense of what is the dimension here, it's about 15 inches or a little more than 1 feet. Then as we turn around to the backside, again, we see a symmetric organization of the two Buddhas. The Buddha at the base occupying a much larger space. So how does his expression here differ from the other side? Here we find that his fingers are interlaced. His eyes seem to be closed, gaze lowered. He seems deep in contemplation. Here we can clearly see an arch that looks like it's made of something like flames, something very fluidic. We also notice the halo clearly. And we see this detail of many more Buddhas seated here or positioned right above that halo. Again, he's flanked by two people who seem like bodyguards. And we see the two figures on either side. Some more meditating figures, one a little more clearer than the other. Again, as our gaze ascends up the stele, you find many, many Buddhas. And this Buddha here is similar to the one that we saw on the other side, in that his legs are crossed. We see more and more Buddhas all the way up. Here's a zoomed in view. And now we'll go back to the front side. And just for a moment, can we start creating a picture, a visualization for all these details that we've absorbed with our gaze? And if the eyes are missing out a detail, if we find a gap in our imagination, we can always go back to looking at the image. And now we'll pause looking at the screen to begin our journey of witnessing. So let that visualization of the stele be. Now let's bring our awareness to our own body in a more intimate way. Bring your awareness to your right and left feet. And let's first notice all the sensations inhabiting the feet at this moment. Once we've noticed all the sensations in the different spaces of the feet, can we bring awareness to the shape of the feet, surface, and the inner volume that's holding space for all these sensations of the feet to exist? And then we'll try to layer these levels of awareness to feel a sense or get a sense of where the feet are in space without having to see or move them. Like we're witnessing the feet with our inner eye. Gently move your awareness into your lower legs. Noticing sensations first, and then the space of the lower legs containing those sensations. Then gently move our attention into the knees and the thighs. To the seat. And moving our awareness now into the torso. Noticing sensations and the space of the hips. The lower back and the abdomen. The chest and the waist. The chest and the upper back. And then the entire torso from shoulders to pelvic floor. Bringing awareness to the arms, the sensations and the space of the arms. The neck and the head. And now the entire body. Let's notice our presence. Notice the body's presence through these sensations and the space within that contains these sensations. Then can we choose to focus on one prominent sensation, any sensation that seems to be super dominant in our field of attention? And instead of judging this sensation, can we try to describe it? Can we observe it with curiosity and try to go beyond the judgments that our mind wants to just box them into? Noticing where we feel that sensation. What is that sensation's presence doing to that space? Or rather, what is it doing to our sense or perception of that space? Do we feel the impact of the sensation in the adjoining spaces? What does it do to our breath? Does it change the way we inhale and exhale? If so, how is the inhale and exhale modified? Sometimes in this practice, we might notice this sensation to have an emotion as an undertone. It can also be a habitual way of being or thinking. Can we make all these connections? So we're here to understand it and let it transcend in its own time while doing what we must do. Let us hear how we have a choice to get identified and attached and grip it so tight that we never let it go. Or a choice to witness. Just allow it to come and go like clouds fleeting across the sky. In this practice of witnessing, allow us to see our attachments. In this practice, allow us to see these attachments if they are a source of suffering. And we become more resilient in the awareness that pain is inevitable, that suffering need not be. Breathing in, I'm here now. Breathing out, we're together. Breathing in, I'm here now. Breathing out together. In this moment, as we align our thoughts and breath in oneness and togetherness, can you imagine how, if we were to see this from outer space, would be like the Buddhas in the stele, all of them meditating together across space and time. Breathing in, we're here now. Breathing out together. Whenever your practice feels complete, maybe join our palms in prayer. Bow to the light within. Bow to the light of all the teachings of yoga and the teachers through whom we receive these teachings. And finally, may we bow to the light that shines through each one of us. The light in me honors the light in you. Thank you so much for sharing your presence and practice with me. I hope this practice of witnessing allowed you to encounter the Buddha in a unique way. I wish you a very peaceful weekend, and I hope to meet you back on Monday with yet another meditation practice next week.